sad news. Just continuation in a long series of sad stories that come at the hands of our police departments. Um, Story of Francisco Cerna, 73-year-old killed. He was killed in Bakersfield, California. He was killed on Monday morning. He was walking around his neighborhood, and he's a 73-year-old with dementia. Um, and I don't know if any of you have had personal experience with that, but it can put you in any type of state at any moment mentally. And so Francisco Cerna at 73 with dementia, he was killed by the police. He was walking around his neighborhood in the morning, and something his family said that he did frequently. According to the article, police said that they were responding to a 911 call claiming that Cerna was armed with a gun. Turns out that it was not a gun. After they shot and killed him, it turns out that it was a crucifix, a cross. And so he was shot several times, and he was killed, pronounced dead at the hospital. There's a quote from the family that says, "It's difficult to accept that our dad's life ended so brutally, abruptly, and with such excessive violence," the family said during their vigil. Here's the thing, and we've discussed this quite a bit on the show, and unfortunately, we're going to have to keep discussing this on the show, because when you call the police out, they are not equipped. America's not equipped for mental health services anymore, and situations. And I know this is slightly different because this was a neighbor calling 911, but I believe the Washington Post reported it was 1 out of 4 shootings, police killings of unarmed people have been people who have been struggling with some type of mental illness. And then it goes to the fact of mental health services in that neighborhood and awareness in that neighborhood. And when you call the police, we're at the point where you shouldn't call them unless some type of violent force is necessary, because they're going to bring violent force in far too many cases. They bring the violence. They bring the disturbance. They create the scenario that could have been easily de-escalated by some professional. It could have been easily de-escalated by a family member, if it even needed to be de-escalated at all. And they show up to the scene, guns blazing, and kill a 73-year-old man with dementia. I mean, I wish, if nothing else from these stories, we could kind of get to a place where we realize never call the police unless it's a life or death situation. And I mean, and even in this case, it's like, what could they have done? Because it was a neighbor who didn't know anything about it who called the police. Because it's asking, obviously, too much for our police to come to the scene, to ascertain the nature of the problem first, right? To ask questions first before they shoot. It's asking too much of them to do that. So it's clearly incumbent upon the general community for us to be more careful before we call. Yes, it's victim blaming. I'm blaming us. At this point, once we realize that the police are not coming out there to find out what happened, they're coming out there and creating situations that are far more deadly than they ever needed to be. And since we can't count on our police to actually come and ascertain what the problem is before they pull out their gun and start shooting, then it's incumbent on us to protect ourselves and realize, maybe this is not a situation we should call the police on. It's probably the worst advice I've ever given you on this show, but at the same time, it might be the best advice, might be the advice that saves your life. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt. But unfortunately, Francisco Cerna, 73-year-old man, is dead today because someone called the police as he was having an episode. And that's the that's sort of the nature of policing in America right now.